In 1903, the Pennsylvania legislature authorized the creation of the Eastern State Institution for the Feeble-Minded and Epileptic, and a commission was organized to take into consideration the number and status of the feeble-minded and epileptic persons in the state and determine a placement for construction to care for these residents. The commission discovered 1,146 feeble-minded persons in insane hospitals and 2,627 in AIM houses, county care hospitals, reformatories, and prisons who were in immediate need of specialized institutional care. The legislation stated that the buildings would be in two groups, one for the educational and industrial department and one for the custodial or asylum department. The institution was required to accommodate no fewer than 500 inmates or patients, with room for additions. On November 23, 1908, patient number 1 was admitted to the hospital. Within 4 years of operation, Pennhurst was already overcrowded and under pressure to admit immigrants, orphans, and criminals. Residents were classified into mental categories of imbecile or insane, into physical categories of epileptic or healthy, and into dental categories of good, poor, or treated teeth when admitted. The branches of industry which residents were assigned to were mattress making, shoemaking and repair, grading, farming, laundry, domestic duties, sewing, baking, butchering, painting, and working in the store. In 1968, conditions at Pennhurst were exposed in a 5-part television news report anchored by local NBC 10 correspondent Bill Baldini. In 1983, 9 employees were indicted on charges ranging from slapping and beating patients, including some in wheelchairs, to arranging for patients to assault each other. The Halderman case, which resulted in the closure of the institution, also detailed widespread patient abuse. In 1977, U.S. District Judge Raymond J. Broderick ruled that the conditions at Pennhurst State School violated patients' constitutional rights. Pennhurst State School and Hospital was ultimately closed in 1987. The 1,156 people who lived there on the date of the court's order moved into small community homes called community living arrangements. Join me in this exclusive exploration of the most infamous state hospital in American history. I'm going to provide an inside look at what used to be the purest example of pain and suffering due to the barbaric medical procedures bestowed upon patients. I've waited far too long for this amazing opportunity, so without further ado, let's go. So those of you that have been living under a rock, this is Pennhurst State School and Asylum. This place is ginormous. The campus is huge. There's 30 buildings on the campus, give or take 1 or 2, maybe 28. But the buildings are all ginormous, and it's just one of the most amazing places I've ever gotten the opportunity to film. So I'm not going to talk too much during this. As you all know, that's not my style anyway. But I'll chime in every now and again to give you little bits of information. But sit back, relax, and enjoy Pennhurst Asylum. The seemingly never-ending catacombs of tunnels underneath the hospital buildings just seemingly go on and on and on without any end. This is what used to be the tuberculosis ward, or also known as the Whitman building. This is one of the original buildings on the site, and it started imploding from the inside out, falling in, and so it underwent a little bit of demolition, but the first room I show you in here was the morgue. Now, there's a lot of balconies on this building, and that's for one reason. The patients that had tuberculosis, it was thought that if they sat outside and breathed in fresh air, that it would help cure them of their tuberculosis. Now, as you can see, some of these buildings are almost in ruins. They're just skeletons of what they used to be. But I just have to share every building, whether it's the outside or a clip of the inside, just to show you the sheer size of this place and how many buildings are actually on it. It's never ending. So I'm just going to throw this out there that a lot of these buildings, as you can see, are just hanging on by a thread, and they're not going to be around much longer. Now, if you want to film this place or photograph this place or take a haunted paranormal investigation tour or history tour, there's all kinds of crazy stuff available. They do campouts over the summertime, like overnight. They let you do paranormal research overnight. I didn't even know about all this, but if you check out their website at pennhurstasylum.com, they have all this information. But anyway, if you want to film this place the right way, legitimately, like, you can sign up for it, and you can, if that's your style. I wouldn't advise trespassing on this property, just given the fact that there's 24-hour security that's like on it. You can't walk 10 feet without seeing a camera or a motion detector or a security guard. So anyway, you might as well support a good cause, because all the proceeds for all the stuff that you do up here goes into the property. And every day that there's a dollar, going into these buildings is a day that they're going to stand longer, because they're not going to be around forever, and everyone's going to be really upset when they're gone. The decay in this place is unlike anything I've ever seen. I mean, I've been to some pretty neat spots with some amazing decay and all colors and shapes and sizes, but the color schemes in these rooms are just, it's crazy, the contrast between dark and light. And every single room was photogenic or film worthy. There was not one room that I didn't want to film. So those of you that like to be scared, this is supposedly the most haunted part of the entire property. The third floor of this building is known to be, or is said to have, the most haunted activity. So let me know if you see anything.
Hey there, fella.
I noticed in every single room that there's these brackets coming out of the floor underneath, seemingly underneath the beds, but not necessarily. The beds might not have been in that spot 100 years ago, so not really sure what they were used for. But I do know that when they strap the patients down, they strap them directly to the bed frame. So I don't think that they were used for that, but maybe to strap the bed itself down. This was a torture factory. I guess you could say. It was just a factory of pain and sorrow and decay and death. As dramatic as that sounds, that's a pretty accurate description. All right. So now that I'm back on the surface, I wanted to check out one more thing before I make the long trip home, and that is the community swimming pool. Now, I almost forgot about this swimming pool, but it's one of the coolest parts of this whole Explorer. It's huge, and it's very shallow. It has a wheelchair ramp going down in it for patients, but it's very large, and it seems like it could accommodate quite a few people. Now, this hall was locked up tight, but I managed to get a hand in there with my camera to see the stage and the piano that was left behind.